Underhells Campaign. Game 10. Palanite Enforcers Slagtown Rangers vs Escher Maelstrain Incarnata. Mission: Pacification of Dust Falls. Welcome to the second phase of the campaign. In the first phase we were following the total exploration point gain to check if we get 1 or 2 cycles within a single phase. From the second phase onwards we are going to be playing 2 cycles per phase. Mission for today is Pacification of Dust Falls. It's a random size crew mission. The defender places 6 loot crates in the center of the board and deploys their fighters next to them. Attacker then chooses one of the board edges and deploys all their gangers within 3 inches of it. Defender needs to escape with as many crates with the archaeotech of the board. Each one is worth 1 point. Attacker's mission is to kill a specific member of the opposing gang, chosen by the defender, scoring 3 points if he does. Malstrain horrors will start appearing from the second turn. The first match after the downtime is not only a civil war between Malstrain-aligned gangs, but both of them are Malstrain corrupted. We are going to briefly summarize what was bought by gangs during the downtime. Slagtown Rangers have spent all their downtime credits, along with some saved money, to recruit Malstrain Gene Stealer into their ranks. A fresh rookie with an Enforcer combat shotgun also joins, substituting one of the dead brood scum. For the mission they decided to keep their leader in the barracks back home, since he still couldn't buy any decent melee weapon from the trading post yet. Instead, they are led by a pair of sergeants, including one that was subject of Xeno's resurrection. Thanks to their territory they also recruit, for free, a bounty hunter with a needle rifle, ammo crate and a medici kit. Escher decided to spend their downtime credits to recruit a scabber hanger-on, as well as a new champion, a second Death Maiden, this one equipped with a needle pistol and a power hammer, which was waiting for her in the gang stash. Another new inclusion is a Sister Severa, equipped with a stub gun and a shock whip. Their terrain for the second cycle will be a hab zone, granting them 3d6 times 10 credits. The Rabble Rouser, so a target for the Enforcers, was chosen to be Severina, the new Death Maiden. She was deployed on the bottom floor next to one of the crates. On the floor above her was her counterpart with a venom claw. Inanna with a hot shot lasgun was deployed on the other side of the complex, next to a loot crate on the stairs. In the back, on the ground floor, was a Little Sister. Their task was to dissuade enemies to pick that edge to deploy, with hot shots capable of going through heavy armor of the Enforcers. In the middle of the map was the heaviest presence of the Eschers. Saroria with a grenade launcher, Zastor the Gene Stealer, and Severa were all deployed in the middle section of the board. Slagtown Rangers, thanks to a tactic card, managed to sneak one of their fighters right next to Escher ranks. This suicidal task was given to no other than the fresh rookie Blackjack. He was handed a combat shotgun, pat on the back from his sergeants, and was sent to fulfill his first assignment in the police force. He was to ambush an Escher Juve with a stiletto knife and a ganger with a hotshot lasgun. The rest of the gang picked the board edge closest to their assassination target. Boomer and Bounty Hunter deployed on top of the maintenance bridge, overlooking the left flank. Under them deployed Champion Flash. The second force of Palanites was on the right flank. It was an assault force, ready to go after Severina, before she could safely retreat back and go out of reach of their guns and claws. It was led by second champion, Delight, and also included their most powerful melee fighter, a Gene Stealer Scarecrow. There was still quite a distance, due to visibility 12-inch in this phase of the campaign, before Enforcers could reach most of the Escher force with their ranged weapons. The other Death Maiden, who was potentially in range of Delight's bolter, was the first one to activate, carrying the loot crate with her. Severa went down the stairs to open the door for Severina. But even without enemies in range of their vision, Enforcers loaded up their blast weapons and opened fire, hoping explosions would scatter and reach distant fighters. And both of them succeeded. Maybe not in damage done, but making them waste an action to come back up from being pinned. Boomer hit Inanna on the stairs. At least, while pinned, she would be much safer from the infiltrating Blackjack or the Bounty Hunter with a very dangerous needle rifle. There was also a threat of another template-wielding enemy there. Flash could potentially easily reach her with a hip shooting activation. Earthquake's concussion carbine shot was even much more important. Explosion managed to reach the rabble-rouser Severina, pinning and concussing her. This could give the Enforcers enough time to close the distance with Delight and Scarecrow. His concussion carbine jammed, however, and he will have to spend some time to reload it properly. After much deliberation, Escher decided to burn one of their tactic cards, Adrenaline Surge, to solve the rookie problem. With 3 actions, Akari easily managed to move into comfortable charge distance and rush the enemy. Her stiletto knife did not have any problems in delivering the toxin payload, and Blackjack was quickly taken out. Sororia was patient with her activation, waiting for an enemy to show himself first. Earthquake's shot revealed him, and he was an easy target, while he was struggling with his jammed weapon. Sororia loaded a frag grenade and shot the enemy, seriously injuring him. In a very surprising behavioral reaction, this prompted the Enforcer's Gene Stealer to run up and try to assist his friend with a recovery roll. His claws were not helpful, however, and the Earthquake will fail the recovery check at the end of the round. More offensive play happened on the other side of the board. Flash did elect to fire off his run and gun to hit Inanna, but she was saved from the scattershots by the terrain and her armor. This was the perfect moment for the Escher Gene Stealer to move into position for charge in the next turn. In the second turn, First Horror, a lonely Tyramite, appeared at the back of the Escher force, cutting off the retreat direction of Severina. It was in the range of the charge, but after rolling for the charge distance, it was just shy of reaching the combat. With the priority roll won by the Eschers, as the first activation, Gene Stealer Zastor charged the enemy champion. Flash was no match for the brute and was taken out of action, with Xeno's resurrection saving him from the lasting injury. Response from the Enforcers was also potentially very brutal. Delight moved into visibility range next to the wall and fired at Severina with his bolter. Combining his fast shot with a violent mind tactic, he would have 2 chances to kill the target and secure 3 victory points. His first volley just pins the main target, with saves passed. His second shot also just manages to pin Gang Sister with a shock whip. Even although no damage was done, it still slows down the enemy significantly. Severa, instead of charging, has to just get up and shoot her stub gun at the Tyramite, but misses. The horror problem has to be solved by Severina, who gets up and shoots down the Tyramite with a needle pistol. The other Death Maiden uses her upgraded 7-inch movement to get into range and shoots at Delight with her needle pistol, but the attack slightly misses. It's not the case with Sororia, however, and she manages to at least pin the enemy. The rest of the turn is spent by Escher in moving the caskets closer to the board edge opposite of the Enforcer force. Enforcers on the Mechanicum bridge were busy trying to pin or deal damage to rampaging Zastor, but to no avail. It seemed that Enforcers were in cahoots with the Malstrain horrors. Maybe their corruption towards the Malstrain Patriarch is much more progressed than in case of Escher. Again, just a single Tyramite spawned, but in a perfect spot to harass fighters trying to protect the rabble-rouser. With the priority in the third turn, Enforcers decided to again try to use Toxin to take down enemy Gene Stealer. But the Bounty Hunter again could not hit the perfect spot to take him out. But if the Bounty Hunter could not do the damage to the opposition, maybe the roaming horror could? Tyramite charged exposed Death Maiden. But the mistress of the Toxin shrugged off his stinger attacks and she smacked him down with her Venom Claw in reaction attacks. Freed from the pesky Mook, she did not hesitate and charged prone Delight. Again her Venom Claw and Needle Pistol got to work and she had no problem in dispatching the last champion of the Enforcers. Knowing that it would not be the end of her performance this round, the Mistress of Death tactic was played, giving her another ready marker. After failing to assist with recovery in the first round, Scarecrow decided to shadow Delight's movement. After Kiji dispatched the Sergeant, he countercharged. Good roll for the distance meant he reached the engagement range. But yet again Death Maiden managed to perfectly dodge out of the way and no damage to her was done. Busy with avoiding attacks, her reaction strikes failed, and her needle pistol broke for the remainder of the game. On the other side of the board, Bounty Hunter finally came down using the elevator and was in short range for his needle rifle. No damage was done, but, despite the nerves of steel, Gene Stealer fell to the ground pinned. Boomer also started to move down to reach 3 sisters that were running away with the loot crates. Thanks to the extra ready marker, Kiji was able to continue fighting with the Gene Stealer again in this round. But finally her exhaustion started to show. She only managed to score a flesh wound with her toxin venom claw, but she fell down with a serious injury from the reaction attacks of the brute. But no coup de grace was possible, as it was Escher's activation. Seeing the champion falling down, sacrificing herself in a selfless act to protect her gang, was too much for Severina. She left the crate near the doorway and rushed to help her fellow sister. She was too far to even try charging, so she just moved forward and shot the Gene Stealer with her needle pistol. Nerves of Steel check failed, and one flesh wound went through, dropping his toughness to just 2. He still would be able to get up and finish off Kiji in case Enforcers were to win priority in the next turn, as seriously injured Death Maiden failed her recovery roll and she was still bleeding out. On the other side of the board, Akari, happy with her initial kill on Blackjack, was focusing more on the mission, hauling one of the crates to the board edge. She was about to reach it in the next turn, but yet another Tyramite appeared in a charging distance. Not only it took her out of the action, but the potent toxins spread through her body as we rolled enfeebled lasting injury. Despite this unfortunate result, Eschers were focused on protecting the other flank. With priority in their favor, rabble-rouser Severina charged the Gene Stealer. With his toughness being so low already, her power hammer made short work of the monstrosity, allowing her to consolidate and prepare to help with a recovery roll for her friend at the end of the turn. But that aggressive play left the 2 Escher champions stranded from the rest of their gang. All the Enforcers that were left converged on their position. Because of the power hammer, Severina was visible in the darkness of the Underhive, and Bounty Hunter again used his needle rifle to pin the enemy, scoring even one flesh wound with his toxin darts. Earthquake also managed to recover from his serious injury and, despite his concussion carbine being out of ammo, jumped down to advance and shoot with his stub gun. The other part of the Escher gang, 2 sisters in the middle board, continued moving the crates towards the opposite edge. They tried to take down the Tyramite floating above the lifeless body of the little sister, but all the shots were missed. Zastor got up and followed the bounty hunter into the room, where most of the action was taking place. Seriously injured Death Maiden managed to recover from her wounds, and with spring-up skill she would be ready to return the favor and protect Severina in the next turn. All this commotion must have been heard by the roaming horrors, as the Gene Stealer Alpha appeared in the vicinity. The spawning point also contained a data crystal, ready to be picked up by any fighter brave enough to approach the beast. And indeed one brave man stepped forward. But it was not to pursue an elusive data crystal, but with a simple mission on his mind. Earthquake made a few steps to be in full view of the rabble-rouser and fired his stub gun. Bullet from his revolver pierced through Severina's armor and a single injury die was rolled. A skull meant not only that the powerful Escher champion was out of action, but also 3 victory points were scored by the Enforcers. To tie the score, Eschers would have to rescue 3 crates with the Archaeotech. With 4 crates quite close to the opposite edge, it was still a possibility. But first, the chase between the bounty hunter and Zastor was at the end. Gene Stealer charged and killed him outright without much trouble. The Alpha Gene Stealer activation was next. He charged and finished off the second Death Maiden of Escher. Severa was carrying 1 loot crate from the middle of the board, trying to ignore the shouting and screams coming from the nearby room, while the pair of Saroria and Inanna tried to take down the lone Tyramite. The sister moved first, trying to kill it with her hot-shot last gun, but missed. She survived the return charge from the roaming horror. Specialist Saroria, not wanting to risk hitting her friend with a grenade, charged into the melee with her bare hands. She could not hit, however, and Tyramite with a single jab of its stinger seriously injured her. The fight would be over in the next turn when Inanna would finally dispatch the flying bug, but Saroria was still seriously injured, unable to help with carrying the loot crates out. In the next turn another group of Malstrain horrors appeared. This time 2 brood scums were chasing after the sisters. Escher Gene Stealer Zastor tried to support them, leaving the room of the carnage from previous turns. The roaming horror Gene Stealer dispatched Earthquake and followed his counterpart shortly after. The situation was too much to handle for the Maelstrain Incarnata. After failing a bottle check, the sisters started to fail their nerve checks one by one. In 2 turns only the Gene Stealer was left on the board for Eschers, while Enforcers only had Boomer, still safely up on the Mechanicum building, overlooking the situation. The Gene Stealer Alpha finally managed to close in for the kill, but their claws and teeth mostly bounced off each other. With only one crate secured, Escher decided to surrender and retreat. Victory for the Enforcers. Enforcers got only 20 credits from their terrain, but managed to roll a massive 15 trading post-rarity available, after all the bonuses were calculated. This meant that a Caryatid might join the Enforcer leader. As Slagtown Rangers is one of the gangs with the highest reputation, the role is a formality and they gain a Caryatid for free. Flash was taken out for the first time after Xeno's resurrection rules were in effect for him, making him unable to use or benefit from leading by example. MVP was very easily given to Earthquake, for securing Enforcer's win by taking out the target with just a stub gun. Escher, thanks to the 3d6 times 10 credits from their terrain, gain 120 credits, with only one lasting injury for their little sister. MVP was by far Gene Stealer, who managed to survive to the very end and did not fail any of his attacks during the whole game. Not gaining any reputation might be problematic, as they have 2 slots taken by hangers-on and brutes. If they lose reputation in following fights, they might be forced to remove Scabber from their list. This is the second win for the Enforcers in the campaign, with many other gangs only having 1 win so far. Escher's dropped to 1 win and 2 losses. In the next game we will see Gene Stealer Cults taking on Spyra Hunter Gang. See you next time.